Hello, hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Just checking to make sure this is working. Chat. All right, when you guys are ready, please send me a message just to make sure I know it's working and to, well, I mean, that's the point of this. Perfect, right away. Hi, how's it going? Hi, how are you? Is this cup invisible? No, actually, this cup is visible. I'm surprised. Yellow. Yellow? The cup is yellow? Hello. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Questions, let me know. Okay, I just accidentally played myself back out the speakers. That's not what I meant. Oh boy. Okay, yeah, I think it's all good. Okay, what am I drinking? That would be water. Yes, it's straight from the faucet, actually. um, okay, uh, love you too. Thanks so much. Good evening. Yes, it is definitely the morning for me, but yes, good evening for you. Best way to learn reinforcement learning is just the book. There's a book by Sutton and Bartow. Their book is fantastic. The alternative is to do the free Coursera course from the University of Alberta. And it's literally just them slowly walk. What is data science? I don't know. Data science is, yeah. Sadly, it's a really big question that I would have difficulty answering because no one really knows. I like to consider data science as something that encompasses machine learning as well as all of the analytics tools. So basically, like SQL, visualization, programming, any sort of like analytical math based programming, and then generally machine learning models. So making predictive models that can learn from data and then do something with that. Try to predict for the future. This is Q&A. Yep. Good morning. Yes, it is morning for me. Hello. How much math is needed for data science? So for the machine learning based stuff where you're making predictive models, it honestly takes there's a lot of mathematics underneath that. It's a difficult question knowing or trying to answer how much math you need to know so that you can do the machine learning, because technically I don't know if you guys saw my video the other day on auto sklearn or automl or whatever, to get the best machine learning model for probably anything that comes from like an SQL database or any sort of tabular like row column based data. To get the best machine learning model, you don't need to know anything. You literally just need to like import a library and run AutoML, make the best model. It made better than what I could do with quite a bit of effort. But to understand the math behind that so that you can kind of get through the interview stage so that you really have a good understanding of what's going on, it's quite a bit of mathematics for that for sure. For the data science stuff, definitely some statistics like histograms and a little bit of probability would be good. Basic linear algebra and calculus would not be bad at all. And just reading about it so that you kind of understand the parts that you think are important to understand. You want to do a master's in data science from the USA? Can you please suggest some college? Any of them. I mean, honestly, um, I could list off 15 schools that were probably a good idea, but to be honest, you probably know the exact same schools. It would be the list that's kind of well known. So I'm not going to bother listing that. Other than something like MIT would be a really good idea. Yeah. I am wearing a cap with a Python logo. Yes, this is my $30 Canadian Python hat from Redbubble.com. It's It's a wonderful hat. I had to go to some website I've never heard of because I don't think it was on Amazon or anything like that. Can I please spell that RL book? Yes, I can. It's literally called Reinforcement Learning. Difference between machine learning and deep learning. So deep learning is basically a subset of machine learning in which we use neural networks. So neural networks are really just, it's a bunch of linear algebra that formulates a bunch of multiplications and additions, which goes through a series of what we call layers if you were to kind of visualize it. Really what it is just this big nonlinear transformation where you take your inputs and then you multiply each of those by something, and then that creates a bunch of what we call nodes or whatever. It's just a bunch of values. We throw that through a nonlinear function because if it was all linear, then you would just be constructing a massive linear operation, which is fine. It still might do something, but most of the time we want nonlinearity to make complex relationships. And so you basically pass these inputs through layers to form like a neural network. And there's different architectures of neural networks based off of what you want to do, like computer vision or language. Those are two common ones that have been coming up in recent years, but we'll find all sorts of reasons to use them as well past that. So machine learning is about making models that learn from data, and deep learning is making neural networks that learn from data, basically. Did I skip anything? No, that looks good. What app do I recommend with ML models? R or Python, SAS, or maybe something similar? Well, the true answer is whatever you really want. What you're already good at. What's best for the task. In general, I mean, I hope that if I'm wearing a hat with Python on it, you'd assume that I would recommend Python. If I was asked the question between a few different programming languages, I would be wearing an R hat if I liked R, and I would wear a SAS hat if I liked SAS. But it's kind of an opinion-based question, and I don't know. There's a lot of different answers, but Python is very versatile. Good day, Brian. In your case, in the Philippines, you're targeting clients from the US. Okay. Do you have any recommended platform/website for me to get clients? I have no idea what your clients are, what they do, what you're providing them, what they're looking for, or anything like that. So I would have a very difficult time giving a good answer to that, other than saying something that's incredibly general, like LinkedIn, where you can go over and look at the companies, and you can look at the people that are in those companies, and you can look at their role within the companies. And so that's LinkedIn's always a good one. It's kind of the business social media of the world. It's getting bigger and bigger. So probably that, but there's also multiple websites depending on what you need. There's like, Freelancer, that type of thing, but probably LinkedIn, and just advertising on your own website. Facebook and still that type of thing, like for marketing, you can still go hard in like paying for ads. It's pretty cheap for getting a fair amount of exposure. Lots of different ways to bring in people. Hello, how to start learning data science, telling you the roadmap. So I believe, okay, so you're from LinkedIn. Check out my YouTube channel, and there's a fair amount of videos on that. There is one particular video that says like Coursera roadmap to data science or roadmap to machine learning or something like that. I would recommend watching that one. Is it plus point to learn data structures and algorithms? I don't know why you wrote DSA and data structures, because I think that means data structures and algorithms, data structures. Okay. I think I get the point. Is it a plus to learn data structures to get a machine learning job? Yes, it's probably a good idea. I would recommend that. I'm fresher for Python, so need suggestion how to start with. I have a few Python modules since you're on the YouTube channel. Check out my playlist on Python. I have quite a bit to get up from the beginning to up and running pretty well. What are the 3 top tools for the analytics domain? It's SQL, Python, Spark. I don't know. I'm just listing off my head. Everyone would say SQL. They're probably right. It's not even necessarily because you need to write explicit SQL. It's because it teaches you about relational databases, and that's quite nice. Then programming. So any sort of language that you like for programming, I like Python. And then also that sort of teaches you the no SQL databases stuff as well, because you'll get used to using a lot of different data structures that are relatively similar to how that would operate as well. And then you're mostly good to go. Hi, Craig. That's not really my name, but hello. I'm kind of a newbie in data science. How would you suggest learning machine learning? Going through many notebooks and trying them, or going from ground basics theory and practice something on that? I mean, all of those were pretty fine suggestions. It's hard for me to answer exactly what you should be doing because it's what you want to be doing. So that is important to make sure that whatever you're doing, you are liking at least a little bit. You know, you can be frustrated with it. I think everyone gets frustrated with stuff at the beginning, but try to like it the best that you can. And yeah, if you like going through TensorFlow tutorials and just like kind of clicking the cells in the Jupyter notebook or the Colab notebook and seeing what happens, that's great. I think you can learn a lot that way. There's also a ton of theory that you can learn as well, which will really help. Andrew Ng's old machine learning course and upcoming, it's getting closer to releasing Andrew Ng's new machine learning specialization as well. So that would be great as well. In a month from now, I would definitely recommend starting Andrew Ng's machine learning specialization, the new one he's releasing. Python is indeed love. I agree. Python is wonderful. Data analytics services. Okay. I don't know. Still LinkedIn. Yeah, probably. Is it compulsory to have advanced knowledge of programming languages to start with data analytics? I need to read that again. Advanced knowledge of programming languages. Not necessarily. I mean, with just data analytics, you can learn a lot without programming whatsoever. You know, like all the statistics-based stuff. Analytics is a very mathy thing, and so you don't necessarily need to know programming for that. But of course, once you get into it from like a job or interview side, or even just trying to make any sort of interesting project, you would of course need to know programming. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's required to have advanced knowledge of programming before data analytics. It wouldn't hurt though. I definitely think your life is generally easier if you can learn programming stuff first and then going data analytics. So that's probably my recommendation, but it's not necessarily true, or not necessarily required. Hi, Greg. I'm having 12 years of an IT software developer experience and learning data science via Udemy and Coursera. Good. That's wonderful. Will there be enough demand for the next 5 years for experienced people like me? You just need to stay on top of things, you know. It's a moving field, and if you were to today learn everything that's there, and then not that I'm saying you would, but for 5 years, stay out of date. I can't promise you anything. If you're, it could look a little bit different in 5 years. But what you can definitely do is learn up to this point and then keep learning and staying with the times. And then of course, like as long as you're, valuable to society, if you know the skills that people need, we're not going to hit a point, at least not anytime in the near future whatsoever. We're not going to hit a point where it's like, these skills are just, useless and drop off. It always advances, it gets higher level. Like right now for machine learning, it's getting very automated, and people have to figure out, oh, okay, if that is automated, well, you still need to understand how all of that stuff works pretty well for you to be in a position to use that stuff. But then if it's automated, well, we need to utilize those tools to work as efficiently and do as much as we can with them. And we'll just keep automating more and more, and that will that will continue to sort of erase or at least replace some jobs where they are getting automated. But there's always going to be positions like higher and higher up where you understand all of the working components to put them together. So that's what you need to stay on top of, and that's still like programming stuff. Google doesn't really need you to know most of the data structures and algorithm stuff. Like, it's still very useful, of course, and it comes up, you should know how to use them. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be, first day on the job, you're going to be like doing one of those LEET code type questions in practice. Most likely you're not. But why do they get you to do that? Well, it's difficult. It means that you know all the fundamentals and all of the stuff that relates to what you're doing and can implement the stuff behind what is happening. So that's why they get you to do it. And same thing applies. Like you have to stay up to the date. That still means learning the fundamentals and understanding things very, very well. If you're, someone that's probably the most innovative person in the world is Elon Musk, and he still thinks from like a first principles basis, where it's like, how do I relate this to like the very, very fundamental knowledge of physics, like the 5 equations or whatever it is. Not really my specialty, but that's the trick. So stay up to date with the times, but that means learning, and understanding really, really well all of what builds up to that, so that you can, be valuable to society and talk to people about things, and they'll understand, and you'll understand what they're saying. It's very important. Okay, Jasleen Carr with Python. If you have the basic knowledge, you can work with the libraries for data science. That's absolutely true. Which books do I recommend about machine learning algorithms? They usually have the word statistics in front of them again. Statistics or statistical in front. So statistical learning. Introduction to Statistical Learning is the one that I recommend. I believe it's called like Introduction to Statistical Learning with applications in R. That's probably the best book from ground up, or the very bottom to pretty much the state of the art now, I believe, the second edition. There's the 100-page machine learning book. That's not actually 100 pages. It's like 140 or something like that. And it's really good as well. It pretty much starts from the complete basics. But it kind of assumes that you've seen that stuff before, sort of. It doesn't, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't go quite as in depth. And then there's also that the famous one, which every single time I start talking about it, I always forget what it's called. The one with the gecko, I think it's a gecko on it, that's talking about TensorFlow and scikit-learn, and Keras, that one. How do I think about Masters of Data Science at Ryerson? Is it good? It's okay. I think there's probably better. I'm across from Waterloo, and so I think that and similar schools like Toronto are probably better, but University of Ryerson is not bad. Just so that you know, it is technically a university now. It was actually changing a lot in the last decade or so, and what they were calling themselves. I think they've done a pretty good job to improve their credibility. But just so you know, it's not super, like, people in Canada don't really super look up to that. But that of course doesn't mean that it's poor by any means. I think it would be quite wonderful, and I'm sure it would be a good experience for sure. I'm just talking. Just yeah, in terms of like the elite state of the art kind of thing, probably not, but it would still be a great experience, yeah. And you need to not care about those sort of elite things, unless you are in a position to be in one of them. Then of course probably try for the elite stuff, but it doesn't matter. It's really not it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. You've created one automation in Python and Selenium. How can you deploy that the easiest way? Um, hmm. I don't know. I don't know. I'm stuck on that. To become a data analyst, what skills do I recommend to go hard on? Um, SQL, mathy stuff like statistics, programming as well, for sure. Does data science have a career path for freelancers? Yes, it does. Go for it. Freelance whatever you want. If people are looking for it, then sure. There are a lot of boilerplate codes in deep learning. I forget what that means. It's a common phrase. I just forget what that means. Is it worth remembering them for interview, or can I just understand them? Yeah, you'll have to remind me what that means. It's a really common phrase. I just forget what that means right now. Hi, technical questions about feature engineering. Okay, sure. Do you do it only on the trained data set? Probably not. In case of cross-validation, which feature do you present as the best at the end? I mean, you're just trying to do stuff that will make your model do well on cross-validation. Um, and so of course you have to do those same things again. Like, it doesn't make sense to do it only on the trained data set, because you could do all of those things in the training data set, but then if you actually have a model at the end, like what do you do? Well, you have to do the same things that you did on the trained data set. Or if you can't do the exact same things, you have to mimic that as close as you possibly can. But you definitely do that on all of the data sets, unless I'm mixed up about something. And which feature do you present as the best at the end? Well, usually, if you're looking at something explainable, like what is the best feature, generally you have to use like a linear model because they're explainable. There is some interesting things that you can do with the nonlinear stuff to explain importance behind those variables, but usually you just kind of are trying to fit the best model to the cross-validation, and then you kind of treat it as a closed or dark box or whatever it's called. Yeah, I hope that helped. Is it necessary to have a master's degree in data science? Well, I hope not, because I don't have a master's degree in data science. So, yeah, no, I don't think it is. There's some benefits for it for sure. There's some kind of roadblocks that you could get across because of it, but it's difficult to give a solid yes to, is it necessary? Well, no, it's not necessary for really anything. Well, it's not to say a master's in data science isn't necessary for anything. Anything isn't really necessary for anything. You can kind of go your own path and do what you think is the best thing to do. Any idea on how to start with data engineering, pipelining, or big data? You want to work your way up to using Spark and understanding MapReduce is really those big ideas. SQL is a really good starting point. Just being good at coding, like being able to write code that does various things, is probably a good idea. Which help most, hands-on or theory in interview? You need a little bit of a mix in both. Usually it's a little bit more about the theory, and not necessarily theory as in spouting off very specific facts, but having a good general understanding of what's going on, like being able to explain common things like underfitting versus overfitting, the bias variance trade-off, which is really the same thing. There is like cross-validation and train, test, and validation sets. Those ideas are really important to explain. And then at least, understanding a little bit about how the models work. Should probably understand about how the linear models work, and how they're different than nonlinear models, the trade-off between linear versus nonlinear models. And then, depending on what the job is, they might ask a fair amount of deep learning theory. If it's computer vision, you're probably going to be asked something about like image processing and possibly convolutional neural networks. Maybe transformers if they're pretty state of the art too. Can I offer a mentorship program for those who are doing their first steps in this field? Possibly, maybe not. I'm not sure. If you're asking for like a paid thing where we're actually like, teaching one-on-one, like I don't have time to do that kind of thing for free. But if you're looking to, do some sort of one-on-one mentorship thing, then you can message me for sure. What to do when you tried many machine learning algorithms, but none gives good predictions? If it's deep learning, you have to really think about the things that you're doing. If it's like tabular data, you again just try the automl, auto-sklearn, run it thing, and see what you can get. If it's really not doing anywhere close to what you wanted, then you're probably doing something that just really doesn't make any sense, because most models with enough data can learn pretty complex relationships. I got enrolled to learn Python, but didn't really appreciate it from the tutor. Any resource to rekindle your interest and take it from scratch? I don't know. If you don't like Python, then that's fine. And you don't need a tutor to learn Python, by the way. Like, you can just go on the internet and just look at the code, see what it's doing, take it step by step. You're in LinkedIn, but join my YouTube channel, and you can, I have a playlist or a few playlists for basic Python stuff, and you can go through that. And, I don't like tutors personally, unless they're really, really good. Most of them really aren't, and most are just trying to make money for doing something very, like something like the internet could do, like, hey, this is what this code does or whatever. but you could just read what that code does instead. There you can learn very fast from some people, but I don't blame you personally. Just learn online is my recommendation. Secondly, do you feel that people moving from data engineering to data science in its broad term, as compared to typical data analysts moving to, oh God, this is complex. Do I feel that people moving from data engineering to data science, as compared to typical data analysts moving to data science teams, don't data engineers have a better workflow understanding? I am gonna need a kind of a simpler question there. That's really complicated. I'm having trouble parsing that. Sorry. Which algorithms do you believe are the top used in data analytics? Algorithms in data analytics is not really the word that we usually associate with data analytics. Of course, you can call an algorithm anything in a computer that's not data, because computers are made up of data and we do stuff with them via algorithms. But in data analytics, it's rarely associated with the term algorithm, unless you're talking about like machine learning or something, which then generally we don't associate that with the word analytics. In analytics, generally you're going to be making visualizations, which of course there's algorithms that produce those visualizations. You're doing visualizations like Tableau or through Excel or Power BI or something like that. You might be using Spark, that's a little more closely associated with the algorithms word, because it's like MapReduce, parallel programming algorithms. Yeah, I mean, maybe put a few more words there so I know what you mean by algorithms, and then I could probably answer that a little bit better. As compared to analysts, as data engineers can produce schematic. Yeah, still not getting it. Is it advisable to choose a specific domain in order to get a job as a data scientist? I mean, yes. You really do need to go your own path and stretch outside of the arbitrary bounds of like what I say is the best thing for you to do, and what everyone's saying is, this is a path to get to here. Really, you need to make yourself valuable. And so as a data scientist, there's a lot of different algorithms that are helpful to understand, a lot of different mathematics, all of the deep learning stuff. Those are just different algorithms or possibly data structures, depending on how you view it. It doesn't really matter. But in general, yes. I believe I remember watching one of Andrew Ng's lectures 5 years ago, and he did suggest that people should still be like specific on this type of thing and go down like a specific route. But I've done stuff all over the place, even just in the course of my undergrad degree, like data science at an insurance company, deep learning for time series in a grocery business, a computer vision like health checker type thing, a lot more complicated than that, but computer vision, time series, like it was like fraud, something kind of fraud detection related. I really can't talk about it, but a lot of different things. And so not necessarily you have to go to a very specific thing. Not only you actually use the word domain, which generally means, yeah, like insurance versus health versus grocery, whatever, retail is the bigger one. And so not a bad idea. The more specific that you get, as long as there is a requirement for that, and you'll make a requirement if you get something super specific, as long as it's useful. Make the business if it doesn't already exist. But yeah, in general, the more specific that you go, the more that you'll learn. Or at least the more that you'll learn in a particular area, the more valuable that you will be in that area, and the more likely that someone in that area will need you for a job. But vice versa, I believe Chris Naik he was very recommending that people are, what was the word he was using, like jack of all trades or whatever, dev of all trades. He really recommends that people learn like a lot of different things, and I do as well, because as long as you're reading books and watching videos and listening to people in the domain talking about these things, like, the real state of the art, what people are doing, like, Elon Musk at Tesla, what they're doing with AI. As long as you're kind of just learning about things constantly, you can definitely just have a broad understanding of many different things, as well as a specific understanding in many different things. Being broad doesn't necessarily mean that you're just like you don't know anything. You just know a lot of, very little in many different areas. There's no reason you can't know a lot in many different areas for sure. So I hope that helped answer that question. How to start your data analytics journey? Probably the IBM Data Analytics or the IBM Data Science. There's also the Google Analytics. I would probably take your pick between those. You are on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if the links show up in that or not. Yeah, the links will definitely be in my YouTube channel for sure, or the YouTube live stream right now. Okay, what are we doing? The Gecko one. Yeah, yeah, hands-on machine learning, that's the one. Have I conducted probabilistic ML so far? If so, could you guide me to material? If I believe, if I understand that term correctly, all machine learning is probabilistic at this point, which makes it really confusing when that guy made that very, very good book on probabilistic machine learning. There is non-probabilistic, even though technically everything you can kind of treat as probable because, the world doesn't ever behave how you expect to unless you keep in mind all variables, and yeah, you're always going to have noise or errors no matter what. So probabilistic machine learning, it's really just machine learning. And yes, Coursera, machine learning course, deep learning specialization, those are all on those lines for sure. SQL and Power BI is probably a good idea. Yep. The Gecko one is indeed hands-on machine learning. Thank you. Bundle of thanks for your time and help. No problem. Yes, no problem. Doing a course in AI with Python, how can I learn it better? I have no idea. If there's a struggle that you're having, maybe I would know, but I don't know. It's hard to answer. I have good knowledge of machine learning algorithms, but whenever I check to apply anywhere, the recruiters ask for deep learning NLP CV profile. I don't know how to proceed next. I mean, so I don't know how it's not. So I don't know how to not sound a little bit rude on this one. I feel like it's relatively obvious. If the recruiters ask for deep learning, then you should learn deep learning. Like, I don't know, I think that makes sense. If that's the jobs that you want, then you need to learn the skills that they require from you, which is those. Does data science or AL, I assume that's AI, ML have testing scope? I mean, yes, there's testing jobs in machine learning, if that's what you're asking. You're very welcome. Do machine learning and deep learning engineers use derivatives and integrals? Derivatives more than integrals, personally. If you say yes, which derivative and integral topics do they use? Well, I mean, derivatives is derivatives. It's taking the derivative of a function, and the integral is taking the integral of a function. I don't really know what the word topics means in that respect. Most people would throw out the term gradient descent right now, which is gradient is another term for derivative. It just means derivative in multiple dimensions. We're almost always dealing in multiple dimensions because your network either has multiple variables, or your input either has multiple variables, or at least even if you had one variable, it would probably turn into multiple parameters. Parameters meaning the same thing as weights, the same thing as just things that you want to optimize via gradient descent. So gradient descent uses derivatives to minimize a loss function, where a loss function or error function, it's just a number that will, it's a function, but it makes a number that says how wrong you're by, how wrong your model is. We're trying to decrease the wrongness as much as possible, keeping in mind this thing called the bias variance trade-off. And we do complicated gradient descent-like things for that. I apologize if you can hear some noise over there. Okay. Yes, I am doing well. How do you progress in your career as a data analyst? Uh, I don't know how far you are so far, so that would be difficult. Um, how do you progress in your career? I don't know. What stage are you at right now? Which is better, excess zigzag loss curve? I haven't even heard of that. Or excess smooth loss curve. I have no idea what these terms are. I mean, I can picture them, like a zigzaggy loss curve versus a smooth loss curve, but I don't really know what that means. I like how my green screen half the time is showing up on the thing. Whatever. Which linear algebra topics are used in machine learning and deep learning? Yeah, I pretty much just talked about that. It's very closely associated with this thing called gradient descent. And also linear algebra itself is used without calculus, just linear algebra to make the forward propagation through a neural network as well. Yeah, that's the main idea. Machine learning models, which are the top used in data analytics? Oh, okay. Which machine learning models are top used in data analytics? Well, the common machine learning you don't really need to use the word data analytics. Like, it's just what are the most common machine learning models. They are XGBoost, gradient boosting, which is very similar to XGBoost, random forests. Still, linear models are very, very popular. Linear regression and logistic regression. Naive Bayes is relatively uncommon. Support vector machines are decently common. Neural networks are becoming increasingly more common. Usually, if you just have tabular data, usually the winners are gradient boosting or XGBoost, along with maybe using a random forest to be. It's random forest probably not quite as good, but pretty good as well. And then you would probably make an ensemble, which means usually a weighted average of many different models. So a weighted average between one gradient boosting model, another random forest model. If you're interested in me, that was a funny sentence. If you're interested in the video I just produced a couple days ago, which was, or was it yesterday? No, just yesterday. Which is me trying to make the best machine learning model possible. Really, what I just said was summarizing kind of the results from that. But in general, yeah, on tabular data, which means traditional row and column from an SQL database, then gradient boosting algorithms like XGBoost are the clear winners. Not sure why someone's yelling over there. Which is most important within these four? I need to find your other message. Cal, these four whats? Sorry, if you could say that one again. I believe it's Kala, or Kayla. Then I could probably answer that. Nedwin, good to see you. Hi, Greg. I was asked to do sustainability research and analysis using machine learning, so I tried to cluster the variables and did algorithms. Since the results varied, I still got no idea to present it in a simple way. Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty normal. um, I wouldn't worry too much. I've done lots of research that didn't really make any awesome results. Do what you can and don't proceed too far into any research that just really doesn't make that really isn't working if there's no solid expectation that you can find something that would work well. What are some ways to create purposeful projects in what's a purposeful project? Incorporating finance and text data mining, if applicable, in an educational context. That's way too complicated for me to answer. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna skip that one. Sorry. I know SQL very well, but I don't have that much hands-on in SQL. So is it make trouble in the interview? No, not necessarily. As long as you could answer one of those typical questions that they would ask for SQL-based stuff, which is they give you either a schema or they give you a few tables, and they ask you to get some various things. Write an SQL query for that. Then you're probably good to go. What are the applications of artificial intelligence? Everything. I don't know. Anything that's interesting. Artificial intelligence means intelligence that is artificial. It's really up to humans and as a society or you as a person to declare what is intelligent. But, I don't know, something in robotics, something like any sort of predictive model, like the predicting the weather. That's all intelligent stuff. How to start freelancing. I think there's this website called freelancer.com or fiverr.com, those two. And you would just make a profile. You would start reaching out to people on LinkedIn, build up your LinkedIn profile, just, all of the traditional kind of marketing based stuff. You are hoping that people come to you. Well, you also have to go to people. And yeah, so, but the traditional one is, I think it's called freelancer.com, right? I'm just going to check that one. Freelancer. Fiverr. Yeah, there's Fiverr and Freelancer. I believe they're very similar. Someone could probably tell me the difference between the two. How are we supposed to explore more coding practice? I don't know. There's lots of ways to code. Backpropagation, yes, that's probably should have used that term as well. Thank you. Backpropagation is closely associated with gradient descent. So when I was talking about derivatives, yeah, backpropagation is another good word to throw out there. Hi, I want to gain practical Power BI project experience to apply for a job. Where to get? I'm not really the Power BI guy, to be honest. I have the word analytics on here, which is pretty closely associated with Power BI, but to be honest, I'm probably not the one to ask for that. Okay, at long last, I hit the bottom of the questions, so I'm really happy now that we can, yeah, I can just kind of keep talking and going through all the questions. Solution engineer in the field of AI. So I've seen a lot of different possibilities for what people mean by solution engineer. I can tell you a couple things that are almost guaranteed, which is it's a little less coding much of the time, a little bit more about the overarching strategy and interconnection between teams, and possibly even sometimes down to the level of interaction between you and clients. I found that it can mean a lot of different things, as opposed to something like, data engineering, data science, machine learning, programmer. All of those ones, you're kind of sitting at a computer doing something. At least it can still be a broad, like, analytics or visualization. It depends, like, it's up to you kind of task. But solution engineer, I've seen it mean a lot of different things. In the field of AI, I mean, it's the same thing, but it's in the field of AI. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I can really say about that for sure. Okay, okay, one more. Greg, what are your thoughts on the ML ops spec? What do you mean by spec? Uh, hey, Rocky Star. I wanted to ask how to shift career to business analyst role. I have one experience on software testing. I really don't have a vibe for it. Yeah, who does? I'm just kidding. If there's some software testers out there and you like it, that's awesome. But it's personally not really my jam either. Um, a business analyst role. Well, there is business analytics courses on Coursera. What's that popular one? I think it's by the University of Pennsylvania. I want to say UPenn. UPenn Business Analytics is the one that I haven't taken, but probably the one that you probably should if you're in that type of a situation. I'm just trying to find it. Sorry, it's very hard for me to type one-handed like this. UPenn Business Analytics Coursera. Yes, that is what it is. So there's this 4.6 star, 15,000 ratings business analytics specialization. Probably, I suspect that would be probably a good place to start, would be to do that, yeah. And then probably still all of the machine learning and traditional data science stuff would definitely be a valuable route for you to go down. Okay, where are we? Greg, I started the IBM Data Science Professional Certification. I looked at deep learning and IBM Advanced Data Science. They have a few same stuff, but would it be okay to keep deep learning? Would it be okay to keep deep learning? I don't know what you mean by that at the end. I was following it up until the very last few words. How can we get a job as a data scientist as a fresh graduate? Learn machine learning, start making interesting projects, apply all over the freaking place. Like just apply, apply, apply. Um, Make sure you have a solid understanding in the fundamentals so that you can crack the interviews. Yeah, keep applying, keep doing interesting things, keep making yourself valuable, and you'll get something eventually for sure. Greg, I want to know the difference between data science in R and data science in Python. Well, one's in R and one's in Python. I prefer Python. I'm wearing a Python hat. Lots of people prefer R, but I don't see them wearing R hats, so clearly they're not as they don't take it as seriously as I do. But I mean, they're two different languages that do relatively similar things as long as you're doing similar things. Python's usually a little bit better for the advanced machine learning and deep learning based stuff. R is usually better for the kind of time series, traditional models, like especially linear models and generalized linear models, like logistic regression, linear regression, ANOVA analysis. R is probably a little bit better at that, but you can absolutely, by all means, do all of that in Python via the libraries like stats models and SciPy. Of course, like TensorFlow and all of the common machine learning libraries. So there, I don't ever try to claim that like Python is just better at R at everything. I believe I like the syntax a lot more. I think it's more versatile. I think that more people use it. There's more Stack Overflow questions. It's gaining popularity. And most importantly, I just like coding in it more than R, and it comes up more often. Like it's more likely that you can do a task in R than you can do, or sorry, it's more likely you can do a task in Python versus in R, and so therefore being very good at a versatile language is probably a good idea. Hey, just asked a question on SVM a couple minutes ago. Probably missed it. Hope you can answer it. I did not see anything on SVMs. Let me see. Maybe I did miss that. I'm looking. Are you the smooth loss curve person? Sorry, I don't know. Maybe it didn't register. I'm not seeing a question on support vector machines. Not that I'm super knowledgeable about them, although I have a, like, not to the level of the optimization problem. But I could probably answer some simple-ish questions here on them. Meant skip deep learning. Sorry. Oh, skip deep learning. No. Don't skip deep learning. The work towards it. Like if you started the IBM data science, they don't do deep learning. The IBM advanced data science, I forget. Oh, I just reviewed that recently, but I forget if they go into deep learning or not. Either way, be comfortable with all of the non-deep learning stuff, like the scikit-learn models, but absolutely transition to deep learning and at least learn about what it can do before you decide that you really don't want to do it. Yeah, so just ask the SVM question again, and you're very welcome, Rocky Star. Does neural network belong to machine learning or deep learning? Yes. More granularly or more specific deep learning, but it's basically machine learning, deep learning inside of that. Deep learning and neural networks mean basically exactly the same thing. Sorry, this noise. Do I need to learn probabilities for data analytics? Probably not a bad idea. Definitely for interviewing, they might expect you to know some of that stuff. It does help because it is under the hood. Like in a theory point of view, they're generally modeling that with probability, so not a bad idea. P-values for sure, like data analytics, you'll probably see some p-values, hypothesis testing, A/B testing at that point. So probably a good idea. What non-technical skill is important for all data scientists? Being able to freaking talk to people, and you're not super over proud of yourself, and you're talking to ask people about their life and care about what they're doing, or at least pretend to care well what they're doing, and doing good things for other people will take you extremely far in every single field. You know, Serious. I'm not just like saying that to make up, but to have some sort of an answer. That is absolutely the answer. What non-technical skill is important for all data scientists? Scratch the data scientist thing. What non-technical skill will bring you forward in every single aspect of your life is being able to talk to people and having after a conversation, they'll think that you're a good person. Um, they'll also think that you're knowledgeable. So hopefully you can, be helpful without being cocky, but you're being humble. So you want people to have a good opinion of you. So do what it takes to do that, and be very mindful about what you're saying. Without overthinking, if you say something wrong, don't let it bug you for the next 3 days about how, you said this thing that someone accidentally perceived is wrong. And now it's, yeah, whatever. But trust me, probably a pretty good idea. Computer vision or NLP has more scope. Which has more scope? I don't really know. There's a lot of scope in both. Should we learn both R and Python, or one is enough? I don't really recommend learning both well. There was probably a time when I learned both relatively well, but I felt it was even just a little counterproductive mixing things up. I would just get really good at one, and if you're starting from scratch, my recommendation. Candidly name the recommended course of data science. Someone said it a few lines up. You can read that. It's the IBM data science course. Thank you so much. Hello, Elizabeth from Peru. Did you write or contribute to a paper? Give me a couple weeks for that, and I'll give you an answer. The answer is currently, yeah. Give me a couple weeks, and I'll probably make an announcement on that. Thoughts on PyScript? It's not out yet, right? It's pretty exciting. It's going to be good. There were some smaller projects that were doing something similar as well, but I believe this one will be taken pretty seriously and bring Python forward, which is very nice because Python and JavaScript are very very similar languages, but you still up to this point you still had to use JavaScript, and I think that's because like there's so many people that know JavaScript. It's like why not? But there's also a lot of people that want to use Python as well. And so, just for those that don't know, PyScript is allowing you to replace JavaScript on front end right now to automate the DOM, the document object, whatever it's called. Basically a website to control what happens on an HTML page or automate those things. You would use JavaScript, but now they're using PyScript, or they're making PyScript. Anaconda is making PyScript to replace JavaScript and let you write that in all in Python instead, which I believe it'll probably still interface to JavaScript and just call JavaScript based stuff, which means it's probably the same thing as JavaScript, but a little bit slower. But it's probably fast enough that it doesn't really matter. And I could be wrong. I didn't actually look into the magic quite yet. I had asked before regarding the SVM kernels on implementation of the RBF kernel oh god, that is the xi minus xj, xi minus xj to the t over 2 times standard deviation. Gosh, I don't know, dude. I'm sorry. That's yeah, not the question I want to answer in this Q&A. Sorry. Is there any value for a data analyst to data engineer tasks like data import routines / automations, or should I stick with mastering SQL Tableau? Maybe try to ask that in a slightly different way. That's kind of confusing for me. Sorry. Advice refresher in the data science industry. Just try and stay, try and learn the fundamentals, but also try to keep up at a high level about what interesting people are doing, like Elon Musk with AI. Try to follow those things is not necessarily to the granular like paper implementation level, but in terms of where the industry is going, that's a good idea. Someone is yelling over there. After learning Python, how should I proceed for machine learning? After learning Python, you should probably learn the data science stuff like the NumPy and Matplotlib, Seaborn, those types of libraries, and then probably scikit-learn. And to actually learn from a mathematical point of view, you probably want to do the Coursera, like machine learning engineering course. He's making a new one, so if it's like a month from now, then I would recommend the engineering machine learning specialization he's about to call it. It's not quite out yet, but that's probably where I would head to. How to learn data science for free. Okay, sorry, I'm putting on headphones. And this thing is, okay, there we go. Oh God. Sorry, this is frustrating. Um, Good enough. Okay, how to learn data science for free. Yep, Coursera is all free. My channel is all free. Lots of material there. I'm very much interested in data science and learned related tools, but I have an offer for solution engineer role from a product-based company which uses AI in their business. What should you do? If you like the role, then take it. If you don't like the role, then probably don't take it. I can't really say. Ever used Julia? Yeah, I took a quick look at it, and I thought that the syntax was really irritating, and so I said, nah. Can I provide a crash course on Tableau and Advanced SQL? Those are two topics that I was actually looking into, so yes, at some point I will do that. You're a student and want to build a system for image compression using a neural network, but my final project name image compression using machine learning techniques. My question is, neural networks is techniques of machine learning. I didn't even have a question mark on it, so I'm having trouble understanding if that's a question or not. Is neural network a technique of machine learning? I mean, yes, they are. I'm a digital marketing specialist. Okay, how could I switch my career to data science? Where to start first? Yep, just take the traditional data science route, which is the IBM data science, maybe the Google Analytics, learn machine learning, probably through the engineering machine learning course, or the after that the deep learning specialization. And I have YouTube videos as well. I don't like to plug my own content that often, but I have quite a bit of videos on machine learning and data science as well. I hire interns. Maybe. Send me a message and maybe. Could you suggest me the best AI and NLP projects? I don't know. There's a lot of different things. God, I can. Oh, I'm going crazy. Um, could you suggest me the best artificial and natural language processing projects? Honestly, there's so many different ones. Like, some of the best things to do are to, in natural language processing, make sure that you understand the basics, because I see a lot of people jumping into just automating these things through like, what is it called? Like the Twitter API or whatever. I'm forgetting what the libraries are called, but the libraries are quite good at doing stuff like, fuck, that was, what's the term? Um, seg. Why am I stuck on the word segmentation? Semantic. No, not semantic segmentation. The one where it's like positive or negative. That's a very common traditional NLP project. Like if a sentiment analysis, there we go, that's the word. That's a really common one to start with, but I recommend doing it from a more grounds up way, which is on my YouTube channel. I have one for sentiment analysis, which shows you all of the different techniques to go through that, instead of just automating that. And then, of course, yeah, just try to make more and more valuable, interesting things. And, if you want to go the pretty route, you can make a nice website that makes it all pretty as well. Lots of different options. Just want to thank you. I really appreciate that. Yep, I will. I thank you. I appreciate that. Is analytics good for supply chain? Of course, yes. There's supply chain analytics. There's actually, I believe, a Coursera course on supply chain analytics, so you can probably check that out. I'm working as a Django developer. Wonderful. I'm going to transition into data science. Sounds good. How should I relate my past experience as a web developer with data science and interviews? Yeah, I mean, just it's nice. You're building up a bunch of different skills. Whenever you think that it's a good time to plug or start talking about your web developer stuff, then absolutely. You can obviously mix those things quite well with, you can make a data science related app in Django. That's a lot easier for you because you just need to learn some of the data science pieces, and you can make a nice website. So that would be quite good. Is MLOps necessary to master as an entry to the industry? I don't even really know what mastering MLOps consists of. Make sure that you can, very, very similarly to the message before you, working as a Django developer, you should make sure that you can deploy a model in something like a Django application, or some sort of other similar application like Flask or Fast API or something like that. Have a decent understanding of how files work, about like moving them around and loading files, and how a model is just a file. You can load that, and you're probably good to go. You're focusing to learn mostly data science and machine learning course as a beginner, so there's no need to learn mathematics concepts as a beginner. Okay. Is data analytics could be a good start to be in the field of data science for a non-technical person? Yes, absolutely, for sure. Yeah. Is AutoML the end of machine learning process? I mean, all models and hypertuned parameters are selected automatically. Only preprocessing is required. Yeah, honestly, even without any preprocessing, I still got a really good model. So, at least traditional preprocessing. Of course, there's still, various feature engineering techniques that you can do to set up the inputs as best as possible. I mean, it's sort of kind of the end of like trying different models on tabular data. Like, there's just really no point a lot of the time of spending hours to make an awesome model on data that would just come from like an SQL database. In terms of like making interesting applications like speech recognition and computer vision and stuff like that, we'll continue to automate those things, absolutely. But it really is, as soon as one door closes, another one opens, and so it's not really the end. It's not. It sort of kind of is the end of the machine learning. Like picking a model for very specific things. But there will be still many tasks where you need to do a lot of work in that some automated analysis is just not going to work, or it's not quite there yet. Yeah, I hope that made sense. Is game development a good career? Absolutely, that's a very fun one. The gaming companies can work you pretty hard, so I'd be careful about that. But it's a very fun one for sure. IBM Data Science Professional Certification in Coursera is worth it. In my opinion, it is. And I do. I assume you already know what it is if you're asking that question. But that is in the link in the description of the YouTube live if you want to take a look at that. You are focusing to learn mostly. Oh yes, that's the same question that I didn't understand the first time. Per your experience working at a health tech startup earlier, do the teammates working who have PhD degrees, did any of them have PhD degrees? One of them was working on getting a PhD degree. Of course, the healthcare specialists have I don't know if it's actually a PhD, but the I guess it would be like actual doctor. Do the teammates working with PhD degrees have any problems working with data scientists who have no PhD degrees Like, do they look down on you because you don't have a PhD? Is that what you're saying? Because no, they definitely don't. If mathematics is required as a beginner, kindly recommend a course of mathematics. There's a Duke mathematics course on Coursera. There is a mathematics for machine learning course on Coursera by Imperial College London. Those are two good starting points. And even in the machine learning specialization or machine learning course by Andrew Ring on Coursera, they kind of introduce the math when you would need that. I might recommend starting with the Duke University course if you are lacking kind of the general mathematics knowledge that you would get from like grade 11 and 12 or high school level pre-university stuff. Hey, can I shed some light on how a fresher can gain experience when the industry needs experience? Shed some light on how a fresher gain experience when the industry needs experience. I have no idea what you're saying. Sorry. Your views on Google Data Analytics course? Yep, very good. People like the certification. People really like taking the course. It's in R, I believe, right? So that's not what I'm wearing on my head, but still a pretty good idea. What do I suggest would be the best projects to get an internship in data science? Again, it's a really popular question. I'll have to make a video on that and explain my views properly. There's not really one project. To do that, you have to do interesting things. You have to do things that you like. And so the best trick is to do something that you like and that you would put a lot of effort into that can involve data science, and then you'd be able to explain a lot of the pieces that someone that just made an MNIST handwritten digits or the iris dataset model or whatever, that's all they could really say about it. It's not that interesting. But if you're really passionate about something and you can make something big, and maybe even if you can somehow solve a real world problem, probably not there yet, but if you can do that, then that would be awesome too. Data science or data analytics, which would be a good start to a career path? Yeah, either one. Data science I consider that just to be data analytics plus machine learning. So starting with data analytics, not a bad idea at all. And that brings us to the bottom of the questions again. Yes. Okay, I'm just going to mute because I'm not listening to anything anyway. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just letting the questions kind of fill up while I check a thing or two here. Okay. Good. 2 here. All right. All right, is there any more questions here? What kind of work initially I might be doing on my first job as a data analyst, as a fresher in data analytics? Probably making some visualizations, maybe making some linear models that try to model some things, try to explain those relationships. That's why Tableau, I think, has been becoming a lot more popular, is because it's really easy just as, someone who has a little bit of experience to jump in and make some useful visualizations, maybe make some queries that pull out useful data, maybe go into a little bit of the database side and set up some of the organizational pieces, but most likely not. Probably maybe some hypothesis testing, like A/B testing type things is pretty common as well. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna drop off here. I will answer that question. Please, make sure if you have a question, just throw it in the chat very quickly so that I can answer that before I go in a few minutes. I am interested in working for computer vision startups after completing the data scientist course path you mentioned earlier. Any tips for working as a data scientist at a computer vision startup? Any tips for working as a data scientist at a computer vision startup? Read a lot. On your own time, when they're not asking anything, just read, and try to stay as up to date in that field as much as possible. And if there's talk about things that you're not sure if you understand, whether it's that particular domain or something more general to like the machine learning side, reading papers and object detection, those types of things. Learning whatever you can in that field is my recommendation for sure, and they will gain a lot of value from you doing that. Okay, I didn't see any pop up there, so I think I'm going to drop off. So thanks so much for everybody that came in. I hope I did a decent job at answering your questions. So I'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. I really don't know. And okay, goodbye everybody. Thank you so much.